all been there. We all get together to play a nice, fun game of Magic the Gathering, and then that one guy, you know who he is, he pulls out that commander, the one that just absolutely pisses you off. And they do everything in their power to defend him. Oh, he's just a little guy. No, you know for a fact this motherfucker is bringing an absolutely toxic piece of garbage to your table. So today, we're going to talk about the most toxic pieces of garbage you can play in Commander. So originally, I wanted to find the most toxic pieces of shit in this game that I could find, and I wanted to find them because of this Reddit post right here. Dude Observation Orc is asking for a list of problem commanders, and wants that list to include why those commanders are problem commanders. Now, I understand what they're going for, and there were suggestions in here where people were saying things like, you know, VV, Chulane, Voha, all that stuff, but I figured that that was kind of opinionated for me. I wanted to figure out where can we actually find the saltiest commanders that people play, and let's try to parse out why those commanders are as they are. So to do this, I went ahead and hopped onto EDH Rec, a place that you should definitely frequent for data, but you shouldn't camp in because there are some strange suggestions you will find on that website. Anyway, on that site, I went ahead and saw the top 10 saltiest commanders that you could play, and I figured that that would be a great jump-off point for this video. So let's go into the very first one, top of the ranks. So let's go into the very first one, bottom of the top 10. And that is Toxrill the Corrosive, a commander that puts neg1 counters on the board every single upkeep, and will just slowly kill the board away and replace those creatures with 1/1 black slugs for yourself. And for insult added injury, it's not a mono black commander because he's got this little bit of text at the bottom that says pay Dimir and sack a slug to draw a card. So not only is Toxrill going to always be able to annihilate the board, but he also pisses you off by turning your dead creatures into almost free draw spells. This guy is the draw engine, the removal package, board wipes included, dodging indestructible, and hexproof, and all in a single package. If you pull this out at my table, I'm gonna be honest, I'm actually kind of okay with it. My reasoning is, I see why this guy gets a huge salt score, but I feel like if players are playing adequate removal, then he's just kind of a 7-mana guy who gets to exist on the board for a turn or a turn cycle at best, and then just kind of dies. Like, think about it this way. If you see Toxrill at a table, then you know that they're going to be trying to get Toxrill out. And assuming that the opponent is not playing like Dark Ritual and a Soul Ring combo to try to get him out super early, you're probably earliest seeing him on turn 4. This means you can mulligan into removal and hold that removal for Toxrill specifically. And if all 3 players against the Toxrill player are doing this, then you've got plenty of time to deal with this dude. He'll come out, he'll die, he'll cost 9 mana, and the opponent's playing Dimir. They're not fucking paying that amount of mana. They're going to try to reanimate him, and at that point, you can just kind of hurt their grave. I've always been an advocate for cards like Honored Heirloom and Bojuka Bog, and this guy is a prime example as to why. Once we kill him, the only real avenue to pull him out again easily is with reanimation, especially after he's died a couple times, and that's just not a viable strategy after a certain point. I get it, he's a super powerful commander, he is board wipe and draw, and he dodges all kinds of things, but at 7 mana, I feel like we can kind of handle this dude. Provided all 3 players at the table are okay with doing that. If they're not, then yeah, Toxrill's just gonna kind of dick over you all day. Next, we have My Love Braids Cabal Minion. Now, this is not the version of Braids I prefer. I prefer the more fair one that came out of Dominaria United, but let's talk about this one that used to be banned from Commander and is no longer banned. So, the reason that this card was banned is because it's super easy to get a Dark Ritual out early and then just summon Braids. Hell, you can use a Cabal Ritual and summon Braids just off of the mana from the ritual alone. And if this comes out early, then every single turn, players are having to sacrifice something at upkeep, meaning before they get a chance to set up. If you don't have anything out on the board, then at upkeep, your only option is sacrificing a land. And this can create non-games that are just not fun for anybody. Honestly, I understand the salt score for this one. If you bring this bitch at my table, then I'm just going to assume you're playing mass land denial shenanigans, and that we're playing bracket 4, and that I need to be playing either Azula or Savra, so that you never get a chance to actually play Magic the Gathering yourself. Yeah, I'd say she more than earns her salt score. But the next one up is Jin-Gitaxias Progress Tyrant, and he's a pretty simple dude. For 7 mana, you get a guy that says, don't fucking play the game. Sorry, he has more text on it than that. If you cast artifacts, instants, or sorcery spells, he automatically copies him, making him just a stronger version of Azula, because he also counters the first artifact, instant, or sorcery spell that any opponent casts. This means that if he's out, he's dodging any board wipe, he's dodging damn near anything, and he wins all counterspell battles. Now, there are ways around him, but like with most of the commanders on this list, you're gonna have to be okay with your pod ganging up on the Jin-Gitaxias player, because while this guy is out, he's just gonna be unbeatable. Artifact decks getting 2 copies of mana rocks all the time, instant sorcery spellslinger decks getting access to free storm payoffs, like, he does so fucking much. He doesn't give you damn near infinite copies like Azula does, but he doesn't need to when he can play on your opponent's turns just as well as on his own. This guy is unrestricted mayhem in a bottle, and if you happen to get him out and have a couple of counter spells in your hand, then he just isn't dying. That's just the reality of the situation. If you want to see an absolutely toxic Jin-Gitaxias deck, I am more than willing to build one on this channel so that you can create a friend group around you that will abandon you the absolute minute they see a piece of buttered toast that looks even slightly more personable than your fucking ass. Or we could just not and say we did, and I think that's perfectly viable. But the next commander is arguably even worse, and that is Hokori the Dust Drinker. Now, this guy is just mass land denial. This guy is literally unplayable in brackets 1 through 3 because he is himself mass land denial to the nines. At the beginning of every player's upkeep, they can untap a singular land, but otherwise, they don't get jack shit. I don't think I have to actually explain why this thing has earned its salt score. I have never seen this man in a commander game. I actually didn't know he existed at all until this very moment, and I think this guy deserves every single ounce of hate he ever could possibly gain. After him is Urza High Lord Artificer. Now, Urza's a weird case because you can make the case that you could build a weak Urza deck and he wouldn't be that powerful. He does make constructs that get really, really big. He can make untapped artifacts turn into mana, and he's even got a Shuffle Your Library ability that can help get you out of certain jams. But let's make no mistake, there are exactly 3 kinds of Urza decks. CEDH Urza decks, problematic Urza decks, and then badly built Urza decks. The only way you can make Urza not a problem at a table is if you are deliberately building an underpowered and horribly tuned version of him that uses nothing but high mana artifacts, or just straight up does not run artifacts at all and relies entirely on the construct tokens themselves. Like, I can kind of see a janky Urza Lord High Artificer blink pile that just repeatedly blinks him so that it can make the construct over and over and over again, and that's its win con. And I can kind of see that being not as much of a problem, but then there's that little stupid piece of text on the fucking card that says that it also turns any of those construct golems into mana rocks, which means that the one side effect of doing this strategy, where you will be unable to do things on opponents' turns because you're having to spend so much mana on your blink spells and you can't hold up mana for your counter spells, is basically completely negated by the fact that this guy is generating enough mana to power a small city. I'm gonna be honest, if a deck can either be built hyper powerfully or actually garbage level bad, that's just a commander that's perfectly, I'm perfectly willing to say, has its salt score. That is just a salt-inducing commander. If I have to deliberately build it like I'm a troglodyte in order to make it playable at a group of people, then it might not be able to see play with a group of people. Halfway through the list, and we are at number 5, and number 5 is Jin-Gitaxias Core Augur. This motherfucker has the audacity to be on the top 10 list twice. There is no other commander that is on here twice besides Jin himself. And how did he earn this place twice? Well, very simply. He's a commander that says you don't get to play Magic. Both Jin-Gitaxias say that. This one says it by saying you don't get a hand. So if you don't have a Reliquary Tower or a Thought Vessel or some other way to keep your hand size higher than, you know, 0, this guy is just gonna drain you of all of your resources. He's like an imperialist nation to a bunch of third world countries. He is that parasitic. But here's the thing. He's a 10 mana commander. So I have to ask the question, how are you getting this guy out in mono blue? Like, unless you're playing Mana Vault and Soul Ring and Lotus Petal and damn near every other way to accelerate him, is this guy not just a ticking time bomb? Like, it just feels like this is a non-problematic commander because he costs 10, and if he's his own commander, then we're not cheating him out anyway, not any legitimate way. He's just kind of here. Like, sure, you can cheat him out by using a command beacon to rip him from the command zone, put him in your hand, and then place him onto the battlefield via some other tricking method, but like, if you pull that off, honestly, I'm just proud of you for trying. So, I don't know. I don't know if he's actually earned his salt score. I feel like he doesn't earn his salt score until he's sat on the table for an entire pass. And at that point, this guy is far more problematic as in a card in the 99 of a reanimation pile or like a Simic value engine than he is as his own commander. I, however, can't say that for number 4, because that's Grand Arbiter Augustin. And if you play this guy, you and I are not friends. Simply put, there is only one kind of person that plays Grand Arbiter Augustin, and that is someone who has never known the touch of a woman. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules, but if you play this guy, I am assuming that if you are a male and you are into females, you do not know what a stable relationship feels like. And if you happen to be a female who's into females, or an NB, or anybody else in between, then I'm just going to assume you don't have friends that are willing to hold your hand like the homies should. Have you ever seen one of those TV shows where there's a character who's so obsessed with the rule of law that they are willing to do despicably evil acts in the name of it? That's Grand Arbiter Augustin. That's all he is. He is just a lawful evil individual in D&D, and he's fucking up your campaign. I don't know if I would feel so bad about him if he didn't discount your own spells while also forcing all of your opponent's spells to be more expensive. I don't even know if I would be as upset with him if he made all white spells and all blue spells cost less, but he just happened to do the opposite to every other color spell. Some symmetry would be cool, but nah, this guy is pure asymmetrical grade A bullshit. And speaking of those words, at number 3, we have Vorinclex. And this is just one of those moments where I have to say my choice in partner is very odd, because my loving girlfriend adores Vorinclex. She will actively sing a little song when she gets Vorinclex out in any game, be it in real life or in Magic the Gathering Arena. And this motherfucker having the audacity to say the hero that kills me loses land privileges is absolutely bonkers. Thankfully, this guy is mostly taken care of by the mass land denial restriction, so we don't really have to worry about him in most of our games. But if you do happen to see Vorinclex Voice of Hunger in a game, just assume they are not only playing mana doubling bullshit that's going to get him out super quickly, but they're also going to be running him exclusively to fuck over your ability to play Magic the Gathering. Turns out, people really like playing their cards, and telling them they can't play them effectively forever is what makes salt scores go up. And Vorinclex, he kind of sits in the middle of those paradigms. He says you get to play your cards, but only fucking once. So now that we are at the top 2 commanders that incite a ton of salt, I was curious, are we just going to keep on having like Staxy commanders, or is there going to be a different kind of commander that's in the front? Because the main thoroughfare that I've been able to see is commanders that are super Staxy or commanders that are hyper accelerants are the ones that people tend to have problems with the most. But for number 2, we actually have something that is completely different, and that is Tergrid. This bitch takes all of your opponent's resources and turns them into a gun aimed at your opponents. And you know what? I'm gonna be honest, I'm glad she's a game changer, because if I happen to find myself in a game where there is a Tergrid in the command zone, or heaven forbid, even in the 99, it is on site. That person is losing Tergrid instantly, because if you're telling me that my favorite game mechanic, discarding cards and reanimating them, will be used against me in a court of law, then I'm sorry, but I am throwing your ass on trial. This bitch is getting thrown under a bus the absolute nanosecond that I decide that it is inopportune for me to see her for more than a millisecond. And spoiler alert, that's basically all the time. I never want to see Tergrid on any board ever. The minute somebody summons her, the entire table very, very deservedly turns on the Tergrid player and beats the absolute living shit out of her. But there is a very funny way to play this deck. It is to use her in the command zone and never actually play her. Just play her as her backside, which, you know, she is kind of hot, so I mean, that may be what you're into. But no, Tergrid's Lantern is a far more tame card. Makes a player lose 3 life unless they sack a non-land permanent or discard a card, and then it has an untap ability. Playing this as like mono black big mana is far more interesting than I played a Fleshbag Marauder, I guess I've won the game. And that's basically what Tergrid does. So okay, we've had almost all accelerants or stacks pieces. That's what makes a salty commander in Magic the Gathering. So there's gotta be one at the very top. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't actually agree with him. You see, the top card is Vivien Ornitier. And yeah, Vivi's a super strong Storm Commander. You could even argue that amongst the Storm Commanders that exist, he's probably the strongest of all of them. This guy single-handedly can win games. He is his own mana accelerant. He is his own win condition. He has ways to be reset to operate infinitely. He's just a damn near indestructible machine of absolute mayhem when he's on the board. But I don't think he elicits as much salt as any other Izzet Storm Commander. Like, if you've ever played against Niv-Mizzet Perun, Krark the Thumbless, or Varen Voice of Duality, then you've played against this deck. You've played against this exact deck before, because Vivi is just an extension of what already existed. I think the salt score is more at the concept of Izzet Storm, and then it's aimed at Vivi because he happens to have recency bias. Remember, there are people who play not only Commander, but also play Standard, and up until recently, Vivi was the biggest threat in Standard alongside Agatha's Soul Cauldron. So while I don't think he's any worse than things like Varen or Niv-Mizzet, after all, their decks are going to share like 90% of their cards if they are playing the Izzet Storm strategy, Vivi just happens to be the one that has the win condition and the mana all built into him, and has the recency bias of being not only a powerful threat in Standard, but being one of the most prolific cards in the set that sold the absolute best in all of Magic the Gathering. If I'm being honest, if I have an option between playing against a Vivi deck or playing against a Tergrid deck, I probably prefer playing against the Vivi deck between these two, because at the very least, the game will last all of 3 milliseconds, and then we can move on to the next one. We can let the Vivi player get their little masturbatory game out of the way, and then we can move on to more fun games of Magic. That's just what it is. I'll be salty for a minute, but then I'll be playing Magic again, and I'll be a-okay. So yeah, this guy is currently the most salt-inducing commander in all of Magic, but I don't entirely agree with that. I think he is probably the strongest of the Izzet Storm commanders, but he's also got recency bias on his side. And that's really where most of this stands. So it looks like the commonalities for commanders that people have problems with one exception, which is a thieving commander, are commanders that are either such hyper accelerants in their own right, like Grand Arbiter, Vorinclex, Urza, and Vivi, that they just run away with the game and there's nothing you can do with them. Or they are cards like Grand Arbiter and Vorinclex again, or cards like Jin-Gitaxias or Hokori that are stacks pieces that stop your opponents from playing the game. In both situations, the commonality is clear. When my opponent gets to play Magic and I only get to watch, I'm not having fun. If my opponent only gets to play Magic and none of us get to play because they accelerated so far ahead, I'm not having a great time. But if they've stacked the game out and have made it to where we only get to watch them playing Magic because of that, then that's also a bad time. And that seems to be the commonality. We just like being able, as Magic the Gathering players, to fucking play Magic the Gathering. So I can see why these commanders all get their salt score. I just may not agree with Vivi being at the tippy top, honestly. But while this video was based almost entirely on data from EDHREC, I'm sure there are some pretty salty commanders that you can think of in the comment section below that are not on that list. Hell, the Reddit post had stuff like Winota Joiner of Forces that I think are just as salt-inducing because of their ability to accelerate an aggro board. So let me know in the comment section if there's any commanders that you want me to talk about in the future that induce so much salt that you just want to dive into the ocean because it's better by comparison. That said, thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. I've made the unfortunate mistake of making all fan art canon, and you guys used that to make a ton of doppelgangers of me that try to ruin my life. So why not go ahead and celebrate that cacophony by picking up the new channel playmat over on 4th Wall. When you pick up the playmat, take a picture and throw it up on social media tagging me so I can feature you in a future video. Thank you so much, and let's get back to the video.